Welcome to the Front Porch Podcast. Join us as we uncover the extraordinary stories of people who are part of Front Porch communities and services. Young professionals just starting their journeys, lifelong learners pursuing new passions, and seasoned storytellers sharing the wisdom they've gained along the way. Together, we'll explore how purpose and community shape us with stories that will inspire you to discover your own unique contribution. Views expressed by guests on this podcast are the opinion of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Front Porch communities and services. Please see our show notes for more details. I'm your host, Anna Hall. So community can fill this basic human psychological need that we all have to feel a sense of belonging. Sometimes we need to stand up and be brave and risk losing that community or risk losing that sense of belonging or stand up to community. In that light, I still feel like people who stand up and are brave usually do it in the context of wanting to make things better for people beyond themselves. I can't wait for you to hear from our guest and to see how for her, bravery is not separate from, but part of her sense of community, her sense of duty, and her innate drive to make a difference and stand up for others. Our guest today is Beth F. Coye, a retired U.S. Navy commander. She had two subspecialties on active duty: intelligence, national security, and human resource management, and was one of the first women to command a shore activity. A graduate of Wesley College, the American University School of International Service, and the School of Naval Warfare, Beth taught international relations, sea power, and organizational development at the Naval War College, and political science at Mesa Community College, University of San Diego, and San Diego State. A freelance writer and activist, she lives in Pacific Beach, California. Since 2019, Beth has called Wesley Palms home. Beth Coye, you were in the military for 21 years. Why did you retire early?
I retired early because my boss put a tail on me for see if he could prove I was a lesbian. It was a knock at the door by a senior chief who worked for him, and he said, "Skipper, I have to tell you this. Our boss told me to go out and see if I could prove that you're a lesbian." And my heart dropped. I was betrayed by the Navy, Big Daddy Navy, I called him. So it was the hardest decision I ever made, but it was pretty clear to me I could no longer stay in the Navy.
You were a top performer and you had to leave a place that you loved, where you had achieved and were achieving. Did you ever feel like you completely belonged in the military because you weren't out yet? What was that like to compartmentalize?
Yes, I did, because I was fortunate to not do the typical path for women officers then, and that was administration and communications. About 80% were in that field. And I had gone into intelligence and also national security. And those were just terrific jobs. One of my favorite commands was SACLANT, Supreme Allied Command Atlantic, and in Norfolk. And I was the first woman to be on the staff there as other than personnel. And it was just, I belonged there. They took me in. I was the first woman, and they loved me, and I loved them, and I learned a lot. And I believe in NATO, by the way, very, very much. This is an important alliance that we have and had. My last year, I was editor of the Brozio study. Secretary Brozio was, at the time, the Secretary General of NATO, and he had asked for a study on the comparison of the Soviet bloc then and NATO. And I was the editor, reporting directly to the big guy, the admiral, and I belonged there. Yes, it was definitely a B, a belonging for sure.
Let's talk about another B, though. What bravery? What's the bravest thing you did during your time in the Navy?
I think it was when I was at the Naval War College. I thought, yeah, this is the time I need to use my power, use my background to say, hey, it's time for a study on women in the Navy and where we are, status report. That was the beginning of a the Coye study, which is a very important study. It's online if you ever want to read it.
Named after you, clearly, right?
Yes, right, because I was the main author, and it took a lot of work. But it used all of my education and all of my passion for doing something about equality for women. And so, to make a long story short, we ended it, and it sat for a while in the Pentagon, as those things do. And then Admiral Chick Rao, he said, Admiral Zuma wants more ammunition. And I realized that the study that I just wrote, I had summarized into the Naval War College Review coming out in March next month. And so I said, I know what we can do. We'll just have women write to me or to the editor of the review and whatever they want to say. And so he got those letters, and they wrote, in about 37. They're very powerful. I don't want to be a mascot. That's the way I'm treated, that kind of letter. Mm-hmm. And so the panel met, the career panel in Washington, and sure enough, Z116, it's online too. A very powerful, kind of like the Navy's ERA amendment.
So what did that look like, the result of your work?
What it looked like, wow. We opened up the ranks. We had no longer had one captain. Gradually, we have lots of captains, lots of admirals, till they began to get cut out by the current administration. And we opened up the ROTC. Naval Academy held back a little bit. My dad didn't like this. He didn't want women going to the Naval Academy. He was a class of 33. And also for the enlisted, too, there were openings. And nurses. Right away, we had quite a few nurse captains and then an admiral. And so it was beginning to be equality, egalitarian.
And your own father didn't want you to join the Navy? Is that true?
Not quite. Actually, it was my mother.
Interesting.
And my mother knew me very well. I was very close to a wonderful mother. And she said, Beth, I think you're too independent. And I don't know if you can go along with all those rules and regulations. And my dad said, well, the only waves I know, we were waves then, were the waves in the front of my bow.
What does WAVES stand for?
Women Accepted for Voluntary Emergency Service.
Okay.
Way back when. And I'm proud to say, because I'm a Wellesley grad, Mildred McAfee Horton was our first director of the WAVES, and she was absolutely wonderful. And we had a lot of waves, actually, from Wellesley get out during World War II. Many were code breakers. And you can tell I'm proud of being a Wellesley girl. Class of 59.
Yes, indeed. Woohoo!
Yeah.
So what drew you to the Navy? Your mother was warning you that you were too independent. What is it about the Navy that pulled you in?
Well, I believe it was the feeling of being in a family. Really, I do. My dad was a submariner, and the submariners were very close and would have lots of social events. And I always loved being with the other children, but to go back during the war, I remember I was 4 years old, 4 to 8 or so. And my dad was gone the whole time.
Oh, my goodness.
And I remember drawing submarines and airplanes, and I think I had it in me to be a warrior. And there's a book called The Military Brat by Mary Wirtz. I'm in it as one of the interviewees. Some of us military brats or Navy juniors, not all, but some get that same wanting to be a warrior. And I got that in my genes.
Clearly.
So then I walked down to K Street and walked down there and went into the recruiting office, and there was this very attractive recruiter, Jean, and she told me she'd just come from Naples, Italy, and that was exciting. The whole thing sounded exciting. I was 22.
Did you ever fall in love during your time in the Navy?
Oh, yes, I did. I fell in love actually, I wrote a book, as you know, My Navy too, and I've had some time to reflect since I've been at Wesley Palms. And during all that reflection, I realized I fell in love with the Navy. And my mother would always say, my dad is really married. His first love is the ocean and the sea. And I never realized that, but she said, and I'm second. And the Navy really was my first love. And the second love was a very special woman, still alive, who's down the street from me, has dementia pretty badly. And I talk to her every night on the phone, and she's still a very special mentor to me, and I love her dearly. So, but it was hard, very, very hard to be closeted. I know of one woman officer, and I thought, oh my gosh, who committed suicide because she could not put up with being a lesbian as well as in the Navy.
I can only imagine, because you're stifling or holding back a part of who you are naturally.
Yes. And when I had this VA disability deal that I went through for a year and a half, I had to have a civilian psychologist. She did a write-up on me, and she included medical references, and one of them said in particular that to be not have your identity, such as you can't have in the military, is almost worse than PTSD. Mm-hmm. Really. It's very hard on you because you're always looking behind your... And I was in the intelligence business for 3 tours.
Oh my goodness,
so
a little bit ironic.
Secret. Oh, yeah.
So, Beth, what was it like coming out then?
Well, coming out comes out slowly, as you know. You come out slow. You don't just all of a sudden. Until I got out of the Navy, and then I would tell everybody I'm a lesbian. I still do, because I believe in that, by the way. I believe the more individuals come out and say, I'm a lesbian, I'm comfortable with it, and so forth, that the country and the citizenry will say, I got it, and take off their blindfolds. So coming out to me, the biggest coming out was to my parents. And I'm very, very close to my mother, I was. And I didn't know how she'd take it, except she loves me very much. But it was kind of funny. We were in our house, and I told Dad I needed something fixed in my closet. So he was working in the closet while Mother and I were talking.
You're clever, Beth.
It's true.
He was in the closet while you were coming out of it.
Right. And yeah, and my mother said, when she listened to me, she said, it's not as if you didn't try. I said, that's right, Mother. I believe it's in my genes for sure. There's nature, nurture, but for me it was all nature, and I just know what you know when you're in love, and I had been in love, and it wasn't with a man. And then also, I think I've told you that I really wanted to be bisexual in those days. That was the thing, and I tried. I dated in college. I dated in the Navy, a lot of really fine naval officers. And at the War College, I was asked to be, proposed to. And
wow.
I said,
you really
yes,
tried.
And then I tried. And so then I went, I just can't do this. So I told him I can't do this. And I wanted to be also devoted to my career, the Navy. And that would not happen in those days. You really kind of your job went wherever your husband's did. So does that answer your question? It
answers my question. Incredible.
Love, yeah.
Yes, love.
My dad finally came around. He was not very happy. He had always wanted me to marry a naval officer. But that didn't work out for us. And so, but he's very proud of me now. He's gone now, but he was very proud. And by the way, when I wrote that book, he did not want me to write that book. He wanted to write a book about the Silversides, his boat, submarine. And I said, Dad, I'm 58 and it's time for me to write this. And I hope you'll be okay with it. The reason he didn't want me to, I think, was he didn't want to be known as a father of a lesbian. He lived in Coronado, which is a lot of military. And in those days, this was 94 to 97. It's changing, hopefully for the better. Right now it's moving back, but I think that will come forth. It's going to come forth.
And tell us the name of the book. We want to make sure we get that for you.
My Navy 2, GOO. It's an epistolary in the form of letters, and about 6 or 7 authors. And particularly for those who want to know the inside story of women in the Navy then, And we do address coming out and being a lesbian in the Navy.
Thank you for your contribution. Thank you. You've made such a difference everywhere that you go. So, Beth, let's talk about Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the policy that was in place from 1994 to 2011 that barred openly gay, lesbian, or bisexual individuals from military service. You were very involved in that repeal, Beth. Could you tell us about that?
As far as doing something for Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because I wasn't going to go to Washington and lobby for the group, but my sister and mother both said, Beth, that's just what you are and who you are. Go do it, which I love.
They saw you. They truly saw who you are, an activist, a brave, loyal, loving activist.
Yes, they did, and I went twice, 2 years, and we made a big difference.
What did you do? Tell us more about that.
I went to Washington. The first year was kind of hellish. They kept saying we were bad morale. But the good news was we were a family too. Those of us who were advocating and lobbying from all different places on the continent here, as well as all different militaries, branches. And we got to know each other, and it was very powerful as a family to work on this. And we had goals, and we met them, and we met some pretty fine Democrat senators who said, keep it up. And the next year was also wonderful, more so because by that time the Democrats were in, and we thought we'd really gotten through to them. And for the first, I'm a political science professor. I taught and talked about lobbying and what it is, but until you're there, Anna, and have you lobbied at all?
I haven't, but you're inspiring me.
It's just a wonderful experience of our democracy and getting our points across. And we did, and we felt very good. This was for Service Members Legal Defense Network, one of the top interest groups. So that was awfully fun.
You're incredible. I've been at Front Porch a year now, and I still remember you as one of the first people that welcomed me. I believe you told me when you moved in, you were the only lesbian at Wesley Palms. What was that like for you? Did you feel welcomed?
Most of my friends were in the LGBT community, and I loved it very much, and I became closer to it. So when I came here, I was shocked. We had 2 male couples and married, and one couple left. So now we have 1 male couple. But we just had come in 2 lesbians out, and it makes me very happy. And we also have another one who may be coming out. And so it makes me happy. And by the way, Wesley Palms is very accepting, with few exceptions, very accepting of LGBT. And so I haven't had any problem being, at least I know of, accepted.
Have you started a club?
Yes, we're about to.
Oh, tell me.
Yeah. Do you know if other communities do? Do other communities?
I'm not sure, but tell us about it and maybe they will.
Well, it's sort of my idea, and I've been talking to Kara.
In marketing. Okay.
Kara is
Hi, Kara.
in marketing, and she's a wonderful gal. She and I are good friends, and she and Tanya, Life in Richmond, and I are going to put together a gathering. And for the first group, we may just say who we are. And we're inviting friends and allies, kind of like PFLAG, parents. And by the way, we have we have at least 3, and I bet you there are more, grandparents of trans. And I know that at least 2 of them are open to talking about it. And I think it would be very important to anybody who wants to come and listen. And I didn't mention the staff, but we have some LGBT on the staff, and we're going to invite them, of course.
I think that you continued your activism when you moved into Wesley Palms.
Oh, I did. Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
The first year, right? Okay, the first year I came to a patio home, and I didn't really want to leave Oregon and my second partner, but I had to come down here and for medical reasons. And the first year I had 32 transfusions, blood transfusions in a year. But the first year right away they asked me to be on the board. I said, sorry about that. It's too much for me, Second year, I kind of charged up and and was feeling better, I said, these are the things we've got to do. And we set our goals and recharged the committees. And then I gave up president and was resident rep, total of 4 years. But the resident rep I want to talk, could I talk about that? Because that's important.
I know your voice has
Really.
made such a difference.
The role of the resident rep is to be what I call the conduit between the community, Wesley Palms, say, and Front Porch staff. And if we can't get it solved with the ED, the executive director here, Justin Weber, who's magnificent.
He's incredible.
Then he is incredible. He's a fantastic leader. Then we take it up higher. That's one of the main roles. And the other roles is just to talk with each other and get a sense of what are the big issues that we want to work on, or what are the issues that Front Porch wants us to work on.
You all bring so much life and work experience. Wouldn't it be silly of us to not listen to your voice and ask for your help?
Exactly, Anna. So, and isn't that part of being the larger family, the larger community?
Yes.
We have 17 communities, but then we have this large community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think sometimes in leadership development, as in human growth, it's some of the hardest, most trying times where we find out who we are and what matters.
Exactly.
So what matters to you now, Beth?
What matters to me is to enjoy whatever years I have left here at Wesley Palms. As I say, I've always wanted to have a partner. And even though I don't have a partner, I have lots of friends, but I may have a partner pretty soon. I'm hoping I have a partner pretty soon.
Wait, is there someone? Maybe.
I can't say any more than that. I'll keep you, I'll let you know.
Keep me posted.
Okay.
Now I want to know.
Okay.
I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you if it all works out. You also have a new dog. So sadly, your dog passed away recently, but you have a new family member named CT. Can we see CT? Is Alejandro there?
Sure. Alejandro, can you get her? CT? Come on, baby. CT, come. Come on, baby. Come on over here. There you are. Come on over here. She's 11-pounder.
Aw.
Come on, baby. It's okay.
Is she camera shy?
She's hunkering down.
No, she's shy about.
Oh my goodness. Look at the cuteness.
Yeah. Isn't this a cutie pie?
Hi, CT.
Yeah.
Now, how did CT come into your life?
Well, this is part of the family, isn't it, at Wesley Palms? It really is. And she's been part of the family. We have 40 dogs, and they go to the dog park.
And Beth, I understand that you adopted CT from another Wesley Palms resident who could no longer care for her.
She just can't manage anymore, a little dog. And however, what's happening is I will take her up there so she can see her. Cece still loves her, obviously, her previous owner. So, yes, I said yes. You know, how can I let go?
I don't know how you could say no to that face.
She's a Havanese. She's a Havanese. She's only 3, and I'm 88. So she might need another mother, but I'm not going to worry. You know, I'm just going to say the Wesley Palms family will rise up again and somebody would take her.
But you taking her in is another indication of what an incredible community member you are. We're so fortunate. My life is better for knowing you.
Oh, thank you, Anna. And mine for knowing you. I really hope to see more of you.
You will. You will. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience?
I feel that I'm very lucky to have come to Front Porch and Wesley Palms, and I hope you all feel the same way. As an activist at this time, as a former political science professor, I'd like to say I was going to read Howard Thurman, who's a Black theologian from the last century. Let's see if I can't quite read it here, but I'll read it. I think I know it by heart. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Yeah. So go do it. whatever makes you come alive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. You've been listening to the Front Porch Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Hall. Our theme music was composed by Joe Von Snare and Diane K. Enrique. Carmen Elena Mitchell is our producer and editor. Our recording engineer is Jeff Gall. Wesley Palms tech support provided by Alejandro Ibai Barriaga. Special thanks to Laura Darling for production and marketing support, and to Joseph Escobar for our show art design. The Front Porch Podcast is a production of Front Porch Communities and Services. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please share it with a friend and help others find us by subscribing and leaving a review. We'll be back soon with more stories from the fascinating folk who live and work at Front Porch. Until then, stay connected and inspired.